Okay, game recap. Kind of a tale of two games, as you probably know from the score, but, as you look at things, it's 28-3. We got two different chances to go up 35-3 and kind of blow the game open. Screwed up, with a turnover, with a missed throw that could be a touchdown, and, unfortunately, didn't put them away. So that's a good lesson to learn as we play better teams. We wouldn't have been able to get away with some of the things that happened in the game, especially the 3 turnovers in one half of football. So, always try to find, something good in the bad, and, it forced our guys to play a little longer than maybe we would have wanted to, but also got them in shape. So they had to play longer and play in that heat and play into the fourth quarter. So, that part of it was good.
Lane, is the plan for Luke still to start? And I guess just going forward, would you like to have this thing figured out by Georgia Tech, or is there a chance that this thing kind of keeps going on as long as it needs to?
Yeah, like I've said before, we'd always like to have it figured out. This is not ideal. Luke will go first, in this game. So that gives both guys an opportunity to go first and see how he plays. So, he didn't get as many opportunities as we would have liked. Obviously, we would have liked his series to go further. And Jackson's interception, was going to switch after that series. But, I think, as you guys know, I take a lot into the psyche of the quarterback and didn't want his last play to be an interception. So that ate up one of Luke's series.
Lane, Saturday, O-line, pass protection seemed to kind of be a struggle for the O-line. Just from going back, looking at film, what kind of variables did you see with that? Was it just having guys in different places, or from your perspective?
Yeah, I thought our O-line did really good in the run game and not very good in the passing game. It's not all in them. There's some other stuff in there, but, it's a really fitting of our passing game not being really on. And so those guys have some good players. They always have, especially defensively, and that's why they beat LSU, Nebraska. They always got a lot of Alabama kids that are really good players, that Alabama, Auburn doesn't take. And so, you got to remember that too. We're glad we won, because a lot of times, people don't win these games. Plus, you always feel the way you end normally right after the game, and because we didn't end well, as you guys know, I was pretty down, but that's really better than the other way, because the other way would be, man, we came out, when everybody's ones versus ones, and, we're down at halftime or something. So I think it's a lot easier to correct finishing and doing things well in the second half versus, boy, we're just not very good.
Just out of curiosity, Ulysses Bentley getting 2 carries, one of which was a touchdown. Was that by design, or was it just a matter of Evans and Judkins running the ball? But if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Was not by design. He actually went second and did a good job. And sometimes some things in a series happen or more passes are called. So that was not by design. He's done a great job.
Lane, when you did get the chance to evaluate the tape on Jackson afterwards, just was it the same assessment as you had post game, or did you kind of see more things when looking at the tape?
Probably just a little bit of the same thing, a little bit more of the same things, the good and the bad. Ran really well, strong, moved around in the pocket well, got out of some trouble. We didn't have any sacks in the game, even with average pass protection. But then made, some mistakes, really 2 critical ones, interception and not the third down, easy completion in front of him, because, his feet are screwed up, and, said it before, you get spoiled. And also, like someone reminded me, that was Matt's 4th year last year in college, and so when you have young guys like this, you're going to go through growing pains, I think that it's always been that way, and then every once in a while now we have the, Jalen Hurts or Bryce Youngs, that come around with all the pieces around them and everything, and really don't make a lot of those mistakes, but, normally those are going to happen.
When you have young guys, plus so many newcomers around them, what's the secret to kind of coaching them? How can you help them find that consistency from half to half?
Well, we had tough, tell the truth Monday, is what the meetings are in the morning, the good, bad, and ugly of the game. And so, you know, there's some loafs in there. There's some not effort that we're looking for. And like I said, guys, we're nothing against other places. Everyone does things different, so I'm not saying we do it better. So, but we're trying to break some habits, and people just coach different on certain things. And I told them, a couple of you guys that come from other places, like, this was your one game, all right? We told you it, you screwed up, you have to break these habits or, you know, your playing time is going to suffer.
Just after watching the film, how would you evaluate the wide receiver play from Saturday?
I didn't think they got a ton of opportunities. You know, it was a very big zone, drop deep game, which is what part of why the run was so successful too. You know, a few alignment issues and effort finishing things. So there really wasn't a whole lot of opportunities.
Getting to look on film, your thoughts now on the linebacker, especially the game Kari had, but getting film of seeing that group against somebody else now, because I know that was kind of your one question heading into the season.
Yeah, they did really well. So, you know, probably be the equivalent of if we were sitting up here and the quarterback was 80% completion between the two of them, 4 touchdowns, no picks or something. So that was the concern over on defense. They did really well. Now, we're going to have bigger challenges, obviously, and, you know, some more space games. That was not a space game. You know, they played in tight a lot. So we're still going to have bigger challenges, but they did great. And actually, you know, the defensive players of the game, you know, were the 2 new linebackers. So it's actually interesting. I didn't even realize it until I was reading them off to the players. And Q was special team, or Q was offense, and the punter was special team. So our 4 players of the game were all brand new this year. So, but I also told the offense we should never, ever, ever have a player of the game be a punter. So, you know, that's not a good thing.
Kind of going off that, after watching the tape, what was Jackson's deep ball to J.J. Henry a pass that you expect to be caught, or was it a good play by the safety?
Well, I thought the ball, and this is very critical because it's so far down the field, you know, it was a few yards under throwing. You know, could have been in J.J. in stride, but then J.J. also, you know, could have made a play on it. You know, they kind of fell into it. It's really a coverage where the nickel really had him and he beat him, and the safety fell back in. It's not really on him, but, you know, that stuff happens sometimes. Otherwise, it really would have been a cool play where he'd been wide open, but we got to make competitive plays.
Coach Locke watched a lot of football over the weekend. Seems like a lot of offensive lines are having trouble with pressure. Is that new or relatively new defensive philosophy just to get after people, or, I mean, more prevalent than it has been?
I don't know. I mean, you watched way more than I did, so I wouldn't be able to tell you a week 1 evaluation of that. I don't know that I've sensed that. I think people just have different philosophies. You know, some of these people now, kind of like us, Arkansas likes people to go the other way, keep the ball in front of them. And that's what our defense did. You know, they didn't give up explosive plays for the most part, kept the ball in front of them, you know, and had negative plays. I think, you know, 10 tackles for losses and all the sacks.
Little off topic, but last week it was announced that the CFP was going to be expanding to 12 teams. I'm just curious your thoughts on how that kind of affects things.
I mean, I was told by Keith Carter, I really, last thing on my mind or thing I worry about is however many years from now that is. But, I mean, my statement's always been that's better, you know, because more people have an opportunity instead of people sitting in a room deciding these 4, and they can't be right, nothing against them. Otherwise, in basketball, the number 1 seeds would all be in the Final 4. So I think it would go a long ways to determine the best team better.
More questions for Coach? Go.
Lane, are you concerned at all with, as the 2 quarterback system kind of keeps going on, that's going to affect the guys' confidence the longer that both of them are playing and not a starter's been named yet?
I do. I mean, look at Luke's play because of the different, you know, voice tones, and he was going to change a mic point, and they snapped the ball thinking it was, you know, his cadence. So, you know, you never want that, but you also want to make sure you find the best guy. So, you know, this is what we think gives us the best chance long-term to win, to evaluate the situation, to get the best player. And we still may be wrong after that. It happens all the time.
You talked about some of the new guys impressing. Davison in his first ever college game looked like he made some pretty sound plays. Just what you see on tape from him?
Yeah, it's the same thing since the day he got here, much like Taishim the year before. Does not seem like a freshman at all. Nothing rattled him out there. Came up, made big stops and big plays, and just really cool to have because it's very unique to find these guys, you know, like him, like Taishim, like Q, you know, that are just so unique. Mental makeup, you know, to be able to perform as true freshmen in major college football and play like that's awesome. All right, guys, have a good week.